Greetings and shalom. Welcome to another episode with Health Talk with Lisa. Today, this episode is going to explore sacred rest and how to truly rest in a world that won't slow down. So, we're going to look at what rest really means. And it's not just about sleep, but rather restoration of the mind, the body, the spirit, and the soul. Because in this fast paced world that we live in, where hustle is glorified, many people are tired in ways that sleep doesn't fix. And in this episode, we invite the listeners to examine the deeper types of rest that just may be lacking and how to begin to reclaim our sacred stillness. Now, there are some myths when it comes to productivity. One being constant busyness is not the same as purpose. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. And then the other one is constant tiredness is a signal and not a weakness. Well, let's look at constant busyness, which is not the same as purpose. Now, we live in a culture where doing more things is often mistaken for doing well. And we tend to wear down our business like we tend to wear our business like a badge of honor because sometimes people feel like the more busy you are, the more productive you are, and that's not always the case. And as we continue to pack our schedules, it just kind of proves our value or prove that we're more productive than others. And that's not always the case. Because the truth is, activity doesn't mean that we are aligned. And we can have a really busy schedule all day and still be far from reaching our purpose or our goals. And so being constantly in motion, whether it's working late or overcommitting to others or filling a silence with distractions, can easily and actually disconnect us from the very things that nourish us, which is rest and having clarity and creativity and having peace. And we need those things because purposeful living requires presence, us being present in the moment and not allowing for the moment to pass us by. And being present means also make provisions to have that space. And so a question that we should probably ask ourselves is what I am busy doing, on a day-to-day basis, is that aligned with what I am valuing the most? Because we can be busybodies now, but is that aligning with the things of value to me? How does those things correlate? And then the other myth, chronic tiredness is a signal and not a weakness. Well, your body is constantly tired. When your body is constantly tired, then your soul is trying to get your attention. And fatigue, especially the kind that sleep doesn't fix, that is a sacred signal. And it is saying something is out of alignment. And instead of seeing tiredness as something to push through, what if we saw it as something that we need to listen to? Because chronic exhaustion may be the body's way of whispering to us, something and trying to get our attention about what we have ignored mentally and even emotionally. It could be telling us that we've been holding on to too much. We have stopped nourishing ourselves. We're not eating the right things. We're not getting enough rest. We are not getting enough water into our system. We could very well be pouring from an empty cup. We're so busy pouring into other people and pouring into so many different things because of the hustle and bustle of life to where now there's nothing else for us to pour out. And so our cup is empty. And instead of surrounding ourselves with people that are pouring into us, we're so busy pouring into them and no one's actually nourishing us. But we'll talk about more of that later. And then the body could be saying that we're trying to meet unrealistic expectations. And so our body, when it starts to shut down, it's not betraying us. It's just begging us to return to ourselves. So rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. So there are 7 types of rest, and this is inspired by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. And she calls out these 7 types of rest. There are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sensory, social, and creative. So for physical, we're looking at sleep. Are we getting enough sleep? Have you gotten a massage? To just, allow your body to be relaxed and to be, kneaded into and to loosen up those muscles. When was the last time you actually got up and just stretched? When you get out of bed, you should probably stretch just to get, to activate the joints, to promote movement. That also helps promote healing. And when it comes to the mental, have you sat down and quieted your mind just to sit still? Have you journaled? Have you journaled your thoughts? Do you take time out to just kind of sit and just think? Maybe even do a little daydreaming, but not too long, but just a little bit, just to kind of disconnect for a moment. When it comes to the emotional, do you have a safe space to express your feelings? So, to be able to allow for your thoughts to flow and to be able to express those thoughts. When it comes to spiritual, do you take the time out to connect back to the Most High? Do you talk to Him? Do you have the conversation with them? Do you take time in prayer and meditate and to sit still and then wait on your answers and wait to hear and wait to receive the downloads? Do you take the time and just be still? And then there's sensory, stepping away from the computer screens, the phones, the noise, those things that are clouding your vision, clouding your auditory, canals, it's just stepping away, just going away and just being to yourself. And social, resting from draining relationships. People can drain you. Of course, you know this. I'm sure you at some point you've run across someone that has just totally just drained you. Having a conversation with them just exhausted you so you have to disconnect from them as well. And then you need to spend more time with people that will nourish you, that will feed into you positivity, and to water you instead of just depleting you. And then the creativeness, replenishing awe, just sitting back and just looking around you and spending that time out in nature and just taking it all in, watching the trees and watching the animals and the insects and listening to the wind, looking at the sky and just paying attention to God's creation and just noticing things and just being in the moment and having inspiration. So those are the different 7 types of rest. And it don't take much. It just takes you just being present. That's all it takes. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sensory, social, creative. 7 types of rest. I want you to reevaluate yourself and think about those things. Now, how do you know if you have a rest deficit? Because there are some signs and symptoms that will let you know if you have this deficit. And these signs will let you know if you're lacking rest in a specific area. And so we're going to do a self-check exercise. So, because rest isn't just a one size fit all. You might be getting enough sleep and still wake up exhausted. And that's because your body may be rested, but your mind, your emotions, your spirit are still depleted. So let's look at 7 types of rest and some common signs that you may be lacking in some of these areas. Let's start with physical rest. So, signs of deficiency: constant fatigue or heaviness in the body, muscle aches, headaches, or trouble sleeping, feeling tired or wired. So, these are signs of deficiency for physical rest. So, what can help you with that? Sleep, stretching, taking quick naps. Anything over 30 minutes is too much. You may wake up even more exhausted. So, quick naps, getting a massage, even gentle movement, just being active, not sedentary in your lifestyle. And that can help you with that physical rest. Um, Mental rest. Signs of deficiency from mental rest: racing thoughts, having trouble concentrating or remembering things, feeling mentally cluttered or overstimulated. And if this is you, what can help you? Some journaling, brain dumping, those things that just are, insignificant, things that you are allowing to download in you that just don't have much relevance. Start dumping some of that stuff. Meditation, sitting in silence, time, limiting your screen time. And that will help you with the deficiency of mental rest. And then emotional rest. If you have a deficiency there, you may feel emotionally drained after an interaction, pretending to be just okay. You've seen people like that. You've probably even been there. Somebody say, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." "Yeah, it's okay." "Oh, it'll be all right." "Yeah, it's okay." And you really not okay. You probably just want to scream. You probably just want to just pull your hair out. You probably just want to get somewhere and just let loose. But you have no safe space to express how you really feel it because someone probably made you so mad, but you feel like you cannot react or respond in the way that you want to. You feel like you have to walk on eggshells. Well, if that is the case, that's a deficiency because now you're lacking emotional rest. So what would need to happen here is that you probably need counseling. You might need to have a heart to heart with whomever these that's bringing these issues and these distresses upon you. You might have to have some honest journaling. You may have to set some boundaries. My favorite thing, you may have to say no. Don't be a yes person all the time. Set those boundaries. If you know that you can't do it, don't overwhelm yourself by always saying yes. You can say no. It's okay to say no. You can say no. I don't think so. I'm afraid not. I don't believe I can. Heck no. There's another H no. There's all kinds of ways of saying no. You can be very nice and tactful in saying no. But do not overwhelm yourself trying to take on so many responsibilities and tasks and taking on people's problems and issues that probably don't have anything to do with you. It's okay to say no. Set those boundaries. So that's for your emotional rest. And then we have the spiritual rest. If you're deficient in your spiritual rest, you're probably going to feel purposeless or disconnected from Yahuwah. You're probably going to have inner emptiness despite your outer success. You may have a lot of things wonderful going on with you, but then you're still going to feel empty inside. You may have a longing for a deeper meaning or connection. And if that's the case, you're probably spiritually deficient. So, what will help with that? Prayer, worship, a sense of gratitude, scripture, solitude, walking around in nature and being just thankful. Acts of service. I enjoy acts of service. In fact, I enjoy all of this, but I enjoy giving back because I do it all the time. I'm always giving back. I'm always in the community working. And even though a lot of times people around me think that I have so much going on, and even though I am out there and I am giving back on a continuous basis, but I am very strategic on how I'm giving back and when I'm giving back, because even with my schedule, I still probably get more rest than many of you do. I will get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours worth of rest and sleep and wake up refreshed because I have to have it. I have to have my rest. My mind has to have its rest. My emotions, my body, everything about me, my spirit has to go into rest. And I can always tell when my spirit is out of alignment and I need that emotional and that spiritual reconnection. I have to now go and recenter myself. And sometimes that means disconnecting from people. So therefore I can realign because so often I'm being dumped on by so many people because I have the responsibility to deal with so many people and so many people's concerns and issues on a daily basis. So I have to go and I have to disconnect. And in my disconnecting, that allows me to realign. And then once I realign, then I'm good. But sometimes you have to do that when you're responsible for so many people as I am. So that spiritual rest is important. All of the rest is important, but definitely that spiritual rest. Because it's just, when we have to be the intercessor for so many people and you have to be responsible. You definitely need that spiritual rest. You definitely have to have it. And then there's sensory rest. Now, signs of deficiency for sensory rest: irritability after a long exposure to noises and screen time, eye strain and tension headaches, and feeling overstimulated, wanting to escape but not knowing how. And that's when you're in a sensory overload. Then you need to unplug, point blank and simple. You need to dim those lights. You need to just go away. You need to get into silence. You need to walk around in nature. Sometimes if you're at work and you're feeling overstimulated, sometimes you just need to just go to a quiet place, and that may even be your car. And even when you go to your car, that doesn't mean go and get on your phone. That doesn't mean turn on the stereo and blast your music. Sometimes it just means you just need to get out there and just relax and just still your mind. You know, be tech free, because I know we're in a technological society, but sometimes you have to put those phones down. So sensory rest. And then there's social rest. Now, deficiency in that will make you feel drained after interactions, over committing or feeling obligated because you done said yes too many times and your schedule is not going to allow, and you're overworked, feeling underpaid, underappreciated, not having enough time for yourself. So this is where you have to start thinking about, you have to start thinking about, how is this benefiting me? How is this benefiting other people? Is this adding any value? Is it continuously draining me and no one's pouring back into me? This is when you have to start now reevaluating what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because another deficiency symptom would be longing for solitude and deeper connections, because you got so much going on. So you want to steal away. So yes, you need time with people that's going to be life giving and not life draining. Okay. And this is where you need to take on intentional solitude. Okay. So therefore you won't be deficient in this area. And then creative rest. Signs of deficiency in creative rest: feeling uninspired, stuck, disconnected from beauty, working hard and but losing joy, burnout from always producing but never seeing really the results, or receiving any type of appreciation for the results. So what may need to happen here is that you might need to, dive into the arts or listen to, beautiful music and be in nature, or start sitting and wondering and developing a new appreciation for, things and new ideas and creativity and things of that nature. So therefore you can, now restore your creative rest. So, with that being said, I want to do a self check exercise. I want you to take a moment and reflect on these questions and ask yourself this: What type of fatigue am I feeling most often? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? And then, what type of rest am I receiving the least? And then, when was the last time I truly felt restored and not just rested? So these are some good questions you need to ask yourself. And then I want you to jot down your answers because there is no right or wrong answer, but there are authentic reflections for yourself. Because there is a difference between sacred rest and superficial rest. So let's look at that. We often confuse numbing with nourishing. But there's a big difference between zoning out and then truly being restored. And so when it comes to superficial rest, this kind of rest feels like just old break. It doesn't really restore us. It is just very passive. It's reactive and it leaves us feeling just as drained, if not more, afterwards. Some examples would include mindless scrolling on social media, binge watching, shows on TV to avoid thinking, eating out of boredom and stress, which causes people to gain weight, um, doom scrolling through the news and becoming even more depressed because the news is depressing, and then just keeping busy just to avoid silence. And so these are often forms of escape, but it's not restoration. They fill the space, but they don't feed the soul. We use them to avoid discomfort rather than to move through it. And sacred rest, on the other hand, that's intentional. And it is a practice of coming home to yourself, releasing the weight of the world off your shoulders, and then reconnecting to what is eternal and life giving, reconnecting back to your Father. And it's not about not doing anything. It's about what heals you, what restores you. And so some examples of that would be sitting in silence and then meditating on the Most High, journaling, if that's what you do, from a place of emotional honesty, taking a walk, and take that walk without your phone. Sipping on a really good tea, a good herbal tea that's going to heal your body, perhaps even a detox tea. And practicing breathing exercises, deep breathing, reading something, that's going to nourish your spirit, or listening to worship music, or even the scriptures. I love listening to worship music and scriptures. I like listening to the scriptures even into the night when I go to bed, and allowing it to just play all throughout the night. That just continues to nourish the spirit and the soul. And so sacred rest says, I honor my need to pause. I trust that I am still enough. Even when I am not producing, I'm still enough. It's not flashy. It's not addictive, but it's deeply healing. And it doesn't just restore your energy, it restores your identity. So, self check for you. Am I resting or escaping? And so, when you think about that, the question you should be asking yourself is, will these activities leave me feeling more connected to myself and the Most High, or less? Am I trying to restore my soul or distract myself from it? Or do I feel more whole or more hollow? Hmm. Hmm. Something to think about, right? Well, as we close, I want you to remember this. Rest is not selfish, it's sacred. And in a world that glorifies hustle and overcommitment, choosing rest, especially the kind that restores your soul, it is a radical act of faith and self-respect. So you are more than your productivity. You are worthy of peace, of stillness, of breathing room. So this week, I invite you to explore one area of your life where superficial rest has taken the place of sacred restoration. And then I want you to replace it gently with something intentional, life giving, and true. And then listen for the signals of your body and spirit and listen to see what it is sending you. And then honor them with love and not shame. And then remember this scripture, Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am Yah. So, for our next episode, we're going to explore emotional clutter, how unprocessed feelings are draining your energy. This is going to be a good one. So, we're going to talk about why unspoken emotions get stored in the body and the effects of that, how emotional weight impacts physical health and mental clarity, and how simple, holistic ways can release what you've been carrying far too long. So you don't want to miss this next episode because the healing begins when we give our emotions a safe place to land. Until next time, thank you for listening to Health Talk with Lisa. Shalom.